Welcome back to Everything But the Lesson Plan. Today, we are diving into a journey many educators consider but hesitate to embark on: the pursuit of a PhD, or the Doctor of Education, for teachers who are passionate about education, research, and advancing their career. A doctoral degree can be the next big step. But how do you manage this with a full-time career and family and all the demands in life? Joining us today is Dr. Grayson, an accomplished educator and author of Hooded, a powerful memoir about her journey into her PhD program and how it transformed not only her career, but her identity as a researcher. Welcome, Dr. Grayson. How are you?
I am good. How are you? And thank you for having me.
Yes. Now, this book has gotten me through a lot. I actually just told you I had submitted my comprehensive exams, but it's just a lot that you wrote in here. And me as an educator, I was able to, pursuing my PhD, I was able to connect to so many pieces to your book. What inspired you to write this?
But it was truly something special for me, and I could not have imagined it then that it would have the impact that it does now. And even 5 years later,
Yeah.
we still hear so many stories similar to your story. And what really inspired me was my experience in graduate school. I came from Trinidad and Tobago. I got my bachelor's here within Long Island, New York, at the Delphi University. And then I decided to pursue my PhD in mechanical engineering. And during that time, I had a really tough time
Mhm.
finding people who looked like me, finding mentors, and really trying to figure out how to navigate.
Yeah.
Once I graduated, I still felt as if, yes, I did it and I accomplished it and it was great, but there was something missing. It's almost like, okay, I've gone through this now, but it's going to be so tough for the other person who comes after me. How can I help them? And I started with blogs. And then I said, you know what? This just needs to be something I pour into and put
Yeah.
pages and put it out there. So that is what I did. But really, it's the journey through my own PhD experience that inspired me. And I really hoped that readers would take away that they weren't alone on the journey and they can apply some of the lessons that I learned so that it's easier for them once they get there.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad that you said that, not alone on the journey. The part of what I highlighted was where you had study fast, and it says surround yourself with people who will not only be helpful but also uplift you and your spirits. That was just key for me because I'm at a PWI, and I told you earlier, I do feel alone a lot. It's a lot of stress dealing with doing your research, finding resources. And I do have a good friend of mine who is in the program, but she's like a couple of semesters ahead of me. So she is my person that is kind of helping me get through the different pieces, because there's so many pieces that you need to understand in the process. And when you just feel alone like that, you need some support. And so I'm definitely, and then I have my family as well. So why is that so important? And what are some other challenges you think that doctoral students face?
Absolutely. Getting and finding that support system is really empowering.
Yeah.
And for me, while I didn't find my support system within my department necessarily, it was really important that I find a support system within the community. And I was able to find that support across programs. So,
Mhm.
other departments, whether it be biomedical engineering or material science, and all of those students were one of a few or the only one. And so we all had these pockets of experiences that we were isolated um, on our journey going through. But then when we came together, we had something in common, realizing that we weren't alone. And that's why it's really important to seek that support out, because you'll find that if you try to do the PhD on your own and not ask for help and not have that community, it can feel really challenging
Yeah.
and discouraging, because it's not like it's a year and done.
Yeah.
This is 5, sometimes 7 years that you're on this journey, and no one is an island.
Mm-hmm.
We are all meant to learn from each other. We are all meant to coexist. Do that with people who can help motivate you, who can be positive influences in your life, and who can just help get you to the end.
Yeah. And like you said, I'm glad you said that as well. Sometimes it can be 5 to 7 years, okay, people, because I think I'm on year 4 and I'm like trying to rush myself and I'm like, oh my God, I'm taking too long, but it's a PhD, so it's just gonna take some time.
Yeah, it's gonna take some time, and sometimes we forget, even though you hear the average amount of time, oh, 5 years or 6 years, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Somebody might say, oh, 4 years.
Mhm.
Um, the whole point of a PhD, it's deep research,
Yep.
which is sometimes it's, or most times it's not predictable.
Yeah.
Right? That is the whole point. You are trying to be innovative. You are adding to the field. Adding to the field, being innovative, making an impact takes time. And that is what we have to remember, the fact that it's going to take time and your why. Because if you forget the why that you're doing it, then that is really going to be tough on you. And you will ask yourself, well, why am I still doing this? I don't need to do this anymore. And really feel discouraged and maybe even question if you want to continue in the PhD program. So when we get those moments, it's, well, let me go back to my why.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? When we think about that why, you had your why when it came to your research. And I remember you just, reading how you had to, do a little discovery when it came to your topic and what you wanted to land on. And so when we think about teachers who are in education, they love education. But thinking about a PhD or an EDD, it can be a massive undertaking. Why should teachers already doing such important work consider pursuing this research and
Yeah,
having a PhD?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Mhm.
We all pursue a PhD for different reasons.
Yeah.
And it has to really be important to you. It has to be something, your topic has to be something that you're passionate about. Everybody does it all because we want to learn, right? Because there is a topic we want to explore more. We would like to peel the layers back. We want to do the research. We want to add to the field. And it's the same for teachers. While they are experts in their field, especially as educators, sometimes going on that PhD can help them really hone in on that expertise, but not just hone in on the expertise, add to the field, especially if they've noticed on their educator journey that there is a gap.
Hmm.
If there is a gap, maybe this is where you fill that gap by adding, by contributing, by creating. So that is why anybody should consider the PhD journey.
For sure. And so when we think about choosing our programs, right, that's another hurdle that we've got to get through. And I'm sure you had a reason why you selected the university that you attended, and mine as well. But when people are just at the beginning stages of this and starting to figure out, hey, I think I want to do this. What are some of the things that they need to look for when deciding on a PhD program? We know from the education standpoint, aside from the state requirements that goes into your teaching certificate, that is one important thing that you've got to look for. But when we think about just the studies and what we want from a university and college, what are some things that you think about that we should look into?
I know one of the aspects I didn't weigh heavily that I should have, and it did work out for me. It was understanding what the diversity looks like
Hmm.
across the faculty. And not just that, but understanding the allies, right? And even if there isn't um, a reflection of the people who look like you across the faculty, are there people who you can count on to be sponsors, who are going to motivate you, who are going to be the allies that you need to get you to the next step? That's definitely one aspect. The other one, again, I really didn't consider it as much. I went all the way to upstate New York,
Hmm.
and time, oh, it's okay. It's a portion of my life. But I was there for 5 years.
Mhm.
And where I went to school, it was a very isolating place. Again, formed a community, and that was great. And I had a very supportive family who would call and just check in.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme, many people choose places thinking that they can make it happen and really get through it. And you can, but you have to really be honest with yourself
Hmm.
about what you're getting into when it comes to that. And
Yeah.
then finally, something to consider is when we go on the path, I mean, this is like especially choosing a program, look at the professors. So we talked about diversity, but also making sure that the professor you go with, that person is funded or they have a plan if you need funding, if you need support,
Yes.
right? You're on the same page. Don't go into a program with a what if or maybe, yeah, it may happen or we can work together to work something out. No, because your first year is going to be done. More than likely, we get funding for the first year, second year, and then that third, fourth, fifth year, when
Hmm.
you really need the support so that you aren't as stressed,
Yeah.
that's sometimes where we find that we have challenges, funding challenges. So those are just three main aspects to consider.
Yes, and this leads right into what is important to know about this PhD process is just whenever you're pursuing a PhD, especially for people of color, I think sometimes we can get that feeling of doubt and our imposter syndrome, and I know that that was really big for me my first year and a half of my PhD journey. I mean, it was so bad, Dr. Grayson, that sometimes I just didn't even feel like I could raise my hand and answer a question because I just was like, everybody in the room is smarter than me. And so, did you experience any of this imposter syndrome and how did you overcome it?
Absolutely. It's one of the one of the encounters or one of the experiences that you will keep having
Hmm.
as you transition to different points in your life. And
Yeah.
it's just a matter of we begin to, or we figure out how to deal with it differently and we improve and we know how to approach it and we know how to immediately catch ourselves if we're falling into those feelings of fraud, falling into those feelings like I don't belong. For me, there are a couple of things that I do. I visualize success,
Mhm.
visualizing what does it look like for me to finish? What does graduation day look like? And then I look at how can I count on myself, right? Because we oftentimes we count on other people to give us validation. And when you're in a program, the smallest of wins can count as something really, really spectacular.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to celebrate yourself.
Yeah.
Have to be able to celebrate yourself, right? Um, Talking about it, making sure that you can talk to other people about the experience because that whole fake it till you make it. So we go into the room and we think everybody's smarter than us. I guarantee you, the majority of people don't know what's going on,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah, but it goes back to the community because you can um make sure that you really connect and talk about some of those experiences. And then we always tend to look at the gaps that we have. I don't know this. I
Yeah.
don't know that. Don't look at that. Look at your strengths. Really focus on your strengths and look at what you do have and the fact that you've worked hard to get into a PhD program.
Mhm.
They don't just accept anybody,
Yeah.
right? That's why the percentages are what they have. And then when we think about the number of Black women, the number of people of color who do have PhDs or EDDs, it's
Hmm.
so small.
Very small. Yeah.
That alone should tell you you're not an imposter,
Yeah. That's
right?
right.
You're a hero.
Yeah, we're
So
zero.
that's really important to remember.
Yeah. And so all of this, researching, finding your topic, overcoming imposter syndrome, all of these things, finding your support is going to eventually, and just being consistent is going to eventually get you to graduation day. You've completed this PhD or your EDD. So for you, how did that change things for you? What impact has this had on your career and how you approach education?
Yeah, it definitely gave me the feeling of I want to continue to learn. And
Hmm.
what I mean by that is the roles that I've taken within my career and the rotations I've had, it's all because I was genuinely interested in learning more about a subject area.
Yeah.
Since I've graduated, I've done a rotational program, and in that rotational program, I rotated into three different parts of the company. And then when I was done there, I said, you know what, I really want to understand this aspect of the business.
Yeah.
So I did something completely different. It was IT, and which is, I mean, my background is mechanical engineering. And then I did that a couple of years. And then I said, again, I am feeling the yearning of learning. Um, and I did something completely different. I went to program management,
Mm.
and now I'm doing systems engineering management. So there is always this excitement when it comes to learning new things. And because I was able to go through the PhD program, not only did that excitement and that fire impact the way I approach my career, but also it helped me really have the ability to pivot
Yeah.
quickly and learn quickly and adapt, right? You have to adapt, you have to be able to pivot, you have to be able to really take pressure sometimes, become a leader quickly,
Yeah.
um, do something or like run a program where it's very unknown, a lot of variables. I like to say hand wavy, right? Because there is no real answer, but you have to figure it out. So not very defined. And having the PhD or come going through that process really helped me. And I would say was almost an advantage for me because I was able to really do a lot of those skills that I talked about.
That's good. Yeah, for me, I'm hoping at the end of this journey. So I do have my company and I want to kind of build it out with what I'm studying,
Mm-hmm.
which is very important because it really it's directly impacts teachers' mental health, and especially for teachers who work in high need schools, mostly teachers of color. And so I have different things that I want to do after graduation, but like you just said, we don't know, what's going to, I have this plan, but there might be some other things and other opportunities. The world kind of opens up to you once you have this degree, you know?
Yeah, plans change for sure. And it's important to have a plan, but also be able to adapt when the plan doesn't go your way and not get completely derailed.
Yeah,
That's absolutely important.
yeah. So what's next for you? Any more book launches or if y'all don't have this book, you must get it. Please pick it up. I'm gonna put it in the show notes when I tell you it really did help me. So what is next for you, Dr. Grayson?
Thank you. No hooded part two just yet,
Oh,
but I
okay.
do have a book coming out soon,
Okay.
hopefully within the next few months, about career vision boarding. So basically picturing your professional career.
Oh, nice.
Talk about vision boards all the time. Every not Christmas, but around Christmas, New Year's Eve, that January time frame, we're all out there cutting out pictures and getting
Mhm.
excited and really visualizing. Now, how do we use that when it comes to our career? How can we pull the themes from a vision
Love it.
board and create a vision? And then from that, go through what career goals we have and really working that workbook right now with my husband, and we are really excited to have it come out this year.
Oh, well, congratulations to
Yeah,
you. And I'm excited about that as well.
thank you.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Dr. Grayson, thank you so much for sharing your insight with us today. Your journey is definitely inspiring, and I know it will resonate with so many of our listeners who are thinking about taking the next step into doctoral studies. So I appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks for having me. This was great. Again, keep at it. And if you are on that journey, remember your why.
Yes, yes. Remember your why. So, to our listeners, if you're interested in learning more, check out Dr. Grayson's book, Hooded, where she goes deeper into the experience as a PhD candidate and what it means to navigate as an educator. Until next time, this has been great. And let's keep on thriving, people. Keep on thriving.